The second question, who shall I ask? Suzanne, would you like to go next? Which verses in your religious scriptures empower women and how? It's a good one.
It is a good question. I liked the questions. So which verses in your scriptures empower women and how? So I read the question and I thought, well, I guess it depends on the woman. What I see as empowering, another woman may not, and vice versa. So for me, I was raised as an atheist by my mum, who told me that everyone was my equal and never to think I'm any better or any worse than anyone else. So equality with men for me has always gone without saying. So in coming to scriptures, becoming a Christian as an adult, I read them from the starting place of equality. I expect to find it there in the Bible when I read it. So I probably miss a lot of things that would have looked radically empowering to women 2,000 years ago. Starting places, I think, are really important. Again, verses of scripture like all people being made in the image of God can be seen as empowering. And I kind of go, of course. Of course, all people are made in the image of God. And if all people are made in the image of God, as it says in the book of Genesis, then we're pretty special people. So if God says me as a woman is made in the image of God, who am I to argue? No one gets to treat me as any less. No one gets to treat anyone as any less. And I hold to that for me and for everyone else. And then there are stories, I guess, that could be seen to empower women, depending on who those women are. There are stories like Mary, a woman being seated at and learning at the feet of Jesus, the rabbi, alongside the men. This was really not a usual thing in the day. So it could be seen as empowering. And I'm like, but of course, a woman can sit and learn alongside men. So these things are obvious to me. Of course, women can do whatever they want and are equal to men. Of course. But they're not, however, obvious to everyone. And I know we're coming to the misuse of scripture later, but the idea that women can learn theology, learn the deepest things of life at the feet of God alongside any man, sure, that's empowering if your starting place is being treated as less than. I personally find things like the encouragement not to hide your light really powerful and really empowering. I like that we're encouraged by Jesus to shine. In his Sermon on the Mount, as it's known, he said, "You are the light of the world. You are the light of the world, and to let your light shine." I love that. I like the acknowledgement that the light is within you, and that it can shine from you, and that light is God, and that the light of God that can live within you does not discriminate, but the light of God can shine from anybody. And that for me goes for all who need liberation and are seen as less by anyone else. It's the feminist in me, I guess, that seeks for all to be visible and all to be encouraged and all to be empowered. But for sure, thousands and thousands of years, at least in the Christian story, has not necessarily been good for women. So verses in the scriptures that can be empowering for women, I would say it depends on the woman, it depends on the context, it depends on the starting place. But yes, you, all of you, are the light of the world, and let your light shine.
Thank you. I can see the light shining in you, Suzanne. Very empowering, very empowering. Yes, delightful. So I'd like to ask Jagbir.
Okay, so I've got two verses. One of them will echo what Suzanne was saying. I think the verses depend on who is reading them and how they interpret them. And I think there is one, so at the time of the gurus, society in that subcontinent discriminated against women, right? Women were treated as second-class citizens. There were issues around women were viewed as being polluting. distracting to men from their spiritual path to liberation and salvation. But the gurus, and particularly Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the founder of the Sikh faith, thought that women were unequal and were to be viewed as partners in that spiritual journey to joining with the divine. And there is one quote which I will read out, and you'll see from what like what Suzanne has said and what I am saying is that different women will view it with two different lenses. And the verse is, "From woman man is born, within woman man is conceived, to woman he is engaged and married, woman becomes his friend, through woman the future generations come. When his woman dies, he seeks another, to woman he is bound. So why call her bad? From her kings are born. From woman, woman is born. Without woman, there would be no one at all. O Nanak, only the true Lord is without a woman." Right? So for me, that's a verse which highlights the important role that women have within society. Now, some people might say that it's reinforcing the whole notions of patriarchy because it focuses on that kings are born, right? For example, I've known Western academics who have kind of done that kind of analysis. But for me, this is a verse which shows and demonstrates a male leader, a guru, recognizing what the harms that were being done to women, and then embedding those within teaching and scripture to make sure that people, particularly men, realize the importance of women and the role that they play within society. So that's one verse that I think was important and still is important today, to highlight the contradiction when we treat women badly in terms of their role within society, but within also how women are needed for the continuation of society. Now, the other verse follows on from what Suzanne was saying, and the verse says, from the one light, the entire universe welled up. So who is good and who is bad? O siblings of destiny, do not wander deluded by doubt. The creation is in the creator, and the creator is in the creation, totally pervading and permeating all places. The clay is the same, but the fashioner has fashioned it in various ways. There is nothing wrong with the pot of clay. There is nothing wrong with the potter. The one true Lord abides in all. By his making, everything is made. Whoever realizes the hukam of his command knows the one Lord. Now, that verse can be used to talk about religious diversity, but it can also be used to kind of focus on that gender equality, that you cannot discriminate against women just because they are women, that they are a woman, because at the end of the day, we all, as humans, contain that divine jyot, that light within us. So recognizing that is very empowering as a woman from within my own faith, to recognize that there was an essence and an understanding from our gurus, the importance of women, and that they had an important role in ensuring that the discrimination that was perpetuated on women was ended. But sadly, that hasn't always been achieved, but it's there, that the respect and the importance of women within society is at the forefront.
Thank you, that's very clear. I might very quickly just share my first visit to in the 80s to a Sikh, my first step into a Gurdwara and there was a sister lady sitting there reading the Granth out, the verses out, and I was asking, does she, why? I was so pleasantly surprised. Anyhow, thank you. I think you explained that very beautifully. I'd like to see Lakshmi there.
Actually, Vedas and our scriptures hold women in very high esteem and address them as Dharma Patni. That is, women are Dharma Patni means wife who promotes and preserves the rightful conduct of life. So this is how a woman is portrayed in the Vedas. So Hindu women have a past and present been custodians of Hindu tradition through generations. Their role as the custodian of culture and value has been protected by the Hindu religion. As opposed to women in different religions, Hinduism has had a great number of religious leaders, that is, women religious leaders in the past. These women have been points of reference to practices of the Hindu religion. So actually, it is the essence of Hinduism, the survival of so many women, therefore, solely depend on women passing their knowledge to their children. So children to children, again to children, the knowledge is passed. And this is supported by Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna points out to his disciple Arjuna that women are as worthy and as capable as men in achieving liberation and moksha. Feminine spirituality is not something that needs to be grafted into Hindu Dharma. It has always been a core part of Hindu Dharma. And this is mentioned in the scripture, that is Rig Veda 10.1253 verse. It says, Vedas have several hymns accredited to women scholars who are known as Brahma Vadinis. These are women scholars who were known as Brahma Vadinis. There were many of them, and many of the women were so clever that they could even defeat men in their skills and intelligence. This include sages, women sages like Gargi, Ahilya, Maitreyi, Lobhamudra, Ghosha, Swaha, Sita, and many more. And if you ask me what is my favorite sentence from the scripture, I've been repeatedly putting this across. That is, fathers, brothers, husbands, brother-in-law who desire their own good must honor and adorn the women. Devatas are pleased only when women are venerated, and women are when women are not venerated, all the worship is futile. A family whose women live in sorrow soon perish. A family whose women are happy, they always prosper. This is from the scripture Manusmriti 3.56 to 58 verses. So this is one of my favorite. I keep quoting it very often because it's very true that women has to be venerated and they should be looked after and supported properly, so that the family, goes ahead and generations can follow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think what came out of that for me was the whole aspect of, as you were saying, women living in sorrow. The family becomes sorrowful. Yes.
Yeah.
The whole, the importance of the woman's role in the community, in the wider community too. And all the scriptures speak of revering and honouring the women in the world, and alas, sometimes it gets forgotten. And I think that really takes us to the last question. But I just want to take up something Suzanne said about at the beginning about she was brought up in an atheist family, and I was just wondering whether, because she had that grounding, that gave her a strong sense of self. Yes, perhaps you could. Did you feel, because you obviously have a quite feminist outlook, and that must have, coming up in those circumstances, you had a blank sheet really, in a way, with religious study and religious things. So it must have been quite a thing when you became into your religious life.
Yeah, it was, and it'll probably become a bit clearer when we speak about the next question, actually.
Yeah.
But I think secular society in the UK at the time I was born and growing up, even though we've made a lot of progress in the 40 odd years since I was born, I think secular society and a secular upbringing actually was quite helpful for me as a person, because I know other people who have grown up in the Christian faith, and it has been a lot more confining from them, with that being their starting place. So for me as a person, the kind of personality I am, someone who is naturally rebellious and questioning as well, I think it helped to be raised an atheist.